This is Nancy with the Mom Connection, and I am back. It's been a while, but I am here to stay. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everybody's healthy and in good spirits. So today, I wanted to talk about communication. Yes, I know I talked about communication back in I think it was one of my earlier, probably my first podcast. But this time I want to address communication in relationships. I think my first podcast, I kind of stressed the importance of communicating with your family members, and my daughter was my guest. But today I want to talk about how effective your communication needs to be when you're in a committed relationship, you're married. If you don't know how to communicate properly, and remember, communication is not just speaking, it's listening. You need to be an active listener. So good communication is an important part of all relationships, and it's an essential part of a healthy relationship. What is the definition of communication? We all know what communication means, right? But by definition, communication is the transfer of information from one place to another. In relationships, communication allows you to explain to someone else what you're experiencing and what your needs are. The act of communicating not only helps to meet your needs, but it also helps you to be connected in your relationship. So when you're communicating with someone, what do? Are you listening, but your mind the wheels are spinning, they're turning. You're trying to think of what to say next, how to answer or how to respond or how to rebuttal whatever the person's saying. No, that's not a healthy way of communicating, because you won't get your point across and you won't be heard. You have to talk to each other. No matter how well you know and love each other, you can't read your partner's mind. That's something you need to remember. We're not psychic. We don't know what the person's thinking. They don't know what we're thinking, so we can't assume that they know. We need to communicate clearly to avoid misunderstandings that may cause hurt, anger, resentment, confusion. And remember, it takes two people to have a relationship, and each person has different communication needs and styles. Couples need to find a way of communicating that suits and fits their relationship. Healthy communication styles require practice and hard work, a lot of work, especially when you're having issues in this department. It's almost like you have to retrain your mind on how to, communicate properly. We grow up learning how to talk, how to walk, but sometimes, unfortunately, we learn the wrong way how to communicate with others. Communication, it's not always perfect. Not all the time, it's not. So be clear when communicating with your partner so that your message can be received and understood. Double check your understanding of what your partner is saying. That's where the active listening comes in. That's the part that I was talking about, where you can be talking to someone, or they can be talking to you, but you're not really hearing what they're saying. So do this. When you talk to your spouse, your husband, your partner, try to set aside time to talk without interruption from other people or distractions like your phone, the computer, the TV, even the kids. Think about what you want to say. Be clear about what you want to communicate. Make your message clear so that your partner hears it accurately and understands what you mean. Talk about what's happening and how it affects you. These are tips, by the way, that I came up with and I jotted down. Talk about what you want, need, and feel. Remember to use I statements such as I need, I want, I feel. Try to stay away from you, using the word you. Accept responsibilities for your own feelings. Listen to your partner. Put aside your own thoughts for the time being and try to understand their intentions, feelings, needs, wants. This is called empathy. We all have it. Share positive feelings with your partner, such as what do you appreciate and what do you like about them? Or how important are they to you? And please, please, please be aware of the tone of your voice. I can't reiterate this enough times. Your tone matters like 1000%. If your tone is off, if you're sounding stern or you're, condescending or, that could just turn off a switch immediately almost. So please, please, please watch your tone. Negotiate and remember that you don't have to be right all the time. If the issue you're having is not that important, let it go. Agree to disagree. That's my favorite term in my marriage. I agree. Let's agree to disagree. Right? How hard is that? So another thing, nonverbal communication. Do we know what that means? I'm sure you do. Nonverbal communication. Like right now as I'm talking, you can't see me, but my arms can be folded. They actually are folded. So I'm not mad. I'm just chatting with you guys, right? But my arms are folded because I feel comfortable this way. But imagine now I'm talking to you and you're talking to me and I'm listening, or I'm supposed to be listening to you. But my arms are folded the whole time you're talking. What are you thinking? That's my body language. So when we communicate, we can say a lot without speaking. Our body posture, our tone of voice, the expression on our face all convey a message. These nonverbal means of communicating can tell the person how you feel about them. Or not, but how do they know? If our feelings don't fit with our words, it is often the nonverbal communication that gets heard and believed. Exactly what I said. So my arms are folded, you're talking to me, but my arms are folded. So what are you thinking? Is she mad? Is she not agreeing with me? All these thoughts are going through your head, and then the conversation, kind of goes to the left. Let me give you another example. Saying I love you to your partner or your spouse in a flat, bored tone of voice gives two different messages, meaning, yeah, I love you. Or I love you. Or with a little bit more passion. But when you say it with that bland, like flat tone, what are they left to believe? Like, do they really love me? Or, are they just saying it just to say it because I said it? All of this nonverbal communication is just unnecessary. Notice whether your body language is reflecting what you're saying. So pay attention to your body language when you're speaking to someone. Try not to fold your arms. Try not to have your hands on your hips. Try to make eye contact. Those are good things that you can do. Listening and communication. Listening is a very important part of effective communication. A good listener can encourage their partner to talk openly and honestly. And here are a few more tips. Keep comfortable eye contact when it's appropriate. Lean towards the other person and make gestures to show interest and concern. When you're think about when you're talking. Again, you can't see me, but when you're talking, if your hands are moving when you're talking, that shows that you're interested and you're involved in the conversation. Have an open, non-defensive, fairly relaxed posture with your arms and legs uncrossed. Face the other person. Don't sit or stand sideways. Sit or stand at the same level to avoid looking up or down on the other person. So you don't want to be standing over the person. Kind of don't want to be sitting on the floor and looking up either. You should try to be level eye contact. Avoid distracting gestures such as fidgeting with a pen, glancing at papers, tapping your feet, your fingers. Any of those things can throw somebody off when they're talking because then they might think that you're not listening or you're not interested in what they're saying. Be aware that physical barriers, noise, or interruptions will make good communication difficult. Mute your telephone, your cell phone. You can turn it off, do not disturb, or any other device that you might have that might take away your concentration from the other person. Let the other person speak without interruption. That's very difficult for some. Some people feel like it's got to be a two-way street. Some conversations do require both people to be speaking, of course, respectfully taking turns. But sometimes it's good to just sit and listen, especially if that person wants to express something to you that's troubling them. Show genuine attention and interest. Use assertive statements like, I feel, about, what I need is. Be aware of your tone again. Be prepared to take time out if you're feeling angry about something, frustrated, it might be better to just calm down before you address the issue, because it can easily turn into a full-blown argument or fight. And lastly, I had ask for feedback on your listening from the other person. So, you express something to your partner and you can say, what do you think? Or, just to kind of, engage them in the conversation. And also that'll show that they're listening to what you're saying. All right. So, we're going to take a little break and I'll be right back, and I will, give you a few more tips on good communication. And then also I'm going to tell you 11 ways to become a better communicator. Welcome back. And we left off with me giving you a few tips on good communicating. So let's pick up where we left off. Open and clear communication can easily be learned. Some people find it hard to talk and may need time and encouragement to express their views. But these people can also be good listeners. Don't think that they're not listening or they can't be a good listener. They actually can be. Or they may be people whose actions speak louder than their words, so to speak. So here's some ways that you can improve your communication. Some more ways. Many, 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 many ways. So hopefully you're taking notes. Building companionship, sharing experiences, interests, concerns with your partner, showing affection and appreciation. Sharing experiences, you don't have to go into talking about your past relationships or love affairs, but sharing experiences, maybe childhood experiences or, something you might have in common with each other that you've experienced, in life that you guys can talk about and relate to. Sharing intimacy. Intimacy is not only sexual. Intimacy is created by having moments of feeling close and attached to your significant other. It means being able to comfort and be comforted, to be open and honest. An act of intimacy can be as simple as bringing your partner some tea, some water, a snack, anything, because you can tell that they're tired. This is something that I tend to do. My husband comes home from work. I don't wait for him to ask me anything. I'm home, I work from home or I'm home before he is. So if he comes home and he's on the couch and he looks tired, I just go fix some tea or, go fix him something to drink, one of his favorite drinks or something. I just bring it to him. And he's very appreciative. So that's sharing intimacy. Finding one or two key issues you can agree on, such as how finances are distributed, a goal you might have, or parenting styles, strategies that you might use when parenting your kids. These are all tips that will help improve your communication. To improve the way you communicate, you can ask questions too. What things cause conflict between you and your significant other? Is a conflict because you're not listening to each other? These are questions you have to ask yourself. So what gets them all riled up? What things make them happy? Or what things make you feel connected? What things make you feel sad or disappointed or feel pain? What things don't you talk about, and what stops you talking about them? How would you like your communication with your partner to be different? So these are questions you can ask yourself. Can also be little red flags for your partner, meaning you know these things, certain things will either make them happy, make them sad, make them mad, whatever. So keep that in mind. Those are things that you can ask yourself. If possible, you can ask these questions with your partner and you guys can talk about it together and share your responses, or you can just ask them yourself. Consider and try ways to communicate differently once you kind of know or you have an idea of what works and what doesn't work and what can help improve your communication. All right. So also some things that are difficult to communicate. Let me think. So most of us find some of our experiences or topics difficult to talk about, and it may be something that's like painful or makes you feel very uncomfortable. For example, some people find it difficult to express their emotions, and it's often the things that cannot be talked about that hurt the most, like past relationships, for example. Don't talk about things that are going to make you feel uncomfortable. If you know it isn't, and you're not in that space, then it's not worth having that conversation. You need to have positive conversations, things that will connect you and bring you closer together. So the next question you might have is, well, okay, those are all good things, Nancy. Those are great tips on how to communicate with my partner. But what happens when things fail? What happens when we have conflict or issues? What do we do? So let me give you a few tips on how to manage conflict when you're communicating. All right. So the first one is, please avoid the silent treatment. We all hate the silent treatment. We all hate it. That's the number one tip on my list, is avoid using the silent treatment when you have issues in your relationship, especially if you've been communicating and you get into an argument. The silent treatment, you might think that it's working, but it's not. It actually makes things worse. Do not jump to conclusions. Find out all the facts rather than guessing at the motives. Number 3, discuss what actually happened. Don't judge. Number 4, learn to understand each other, not to defeat each other. You're on the same team, right? 5, talk about the future, or talk using the future and present tense, not past tense. So when you're speaking to your partner, talk in the now or in the future, but don't talk about past tense. And you'll get what I mean when you're in that situation. Trust me. Next, concentrate on the major problem and don't get distracted by other minor problems. And something that you don't want to do also is you're talking about an issue at hand, current issue, but then you remember something that happened, say, 3 months ago. That's not what you should be discussing. You need to stay focused on what the issue is at hand. Talk about the problems that hurt you or your and your partner's feelings. So whatever issue you guys are having, you have to talk about it. Then move on to problems about differences in opinions. And lastly, use I feel statements and not you are statements. We talked about that earlier. I feel sounds way better than you are. When you're speaking to someone, if you use you are, that person can get defensive. So you have to kind of be careful when you're bringing up an issue, you're raising an issue, you're having a conversation that can potentially turn into an argument. Try to remember to use I feel and not you are. So if you can't seem to improve your communication after all this wonderful advice that I just gave you, then you may need a relationship counselor, or you may need to seek someone, outside of your circle to kind of help you and guide you and steer you in the right direction. Having issues in your relationship doesn't always require a counselor or a therapist, but sometimes it's a little difficult or tricky to maneuver through those issues, and you do need help with someone. So keep that in mind too. If you know that you can't work through your issues, seek help. All right. So also, I promised you that I would give you 11 ways to become a better communicator. So I'm going to just say them. And if they need explanation, I will explain them. Number 1, learn to listen. Active listening, right? If you're not paying attention to what other people are saying, there's no way you'll be able to respond effectively. It's not possible. Focus on what your conversation, what the conversation is about and what your partner is saying. And if necessary, repeat it mentally to make sure you understand the points that they're making. But what you don't want to do is try to think about how you're going to respond to them. Whether they're right or they're wrong, try to avoid thinking about what your response is versus listening to them and being able to repeat and respond to what they're talking about. Number 2, pay attention to body language. We spoke about that too. Pay attention to your conversation partner's body language. You're talking to your husband, your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, significant other. What body language are they? Are their arms folded? Is their back turned? Are they, facing the wall? Are they do they have an angry looking face? Are they rolling their eyes? All of that stuff. The rolling the eyes is one of my biggest pet peeves. Oh my goodness. It doesn't even make any sense to me, because the person, I feel like what you're doing if you're rolling your eyes at somebody while they're speaking. It's rude, and it doesn't it doesn't make things any better. If you know that you can't control yourself, the person speaking to you is just driving you crazy, or you're just getting angry and worked up, then you need to take a pause from the conversation versus not being respectful and listening and hearing what they're saying and rolling your eyes. So rolling your eyes, and also I've heard people tell me that they don't even know that they're rolling their eyes. So, I don't know if standing in front of a mirror will work for you, but I've heard people also try that method of, when they're speaking to their partner, have a mirror. I mean, don't go get a hand mirror and, have the mirror out sitting. They might think you're a little vain, but, maybe there's a mirror hanging on the wall close by or something. Kind of look at yourself and see how you're responding. How's your body language? Or you can even practice. Ask your partner, how's my body language when we talk? If they say, oh, your body language is horrible. I always think that you're mad, but you don't feel that way. Okay, next time we talk, let me stand in front of a mirror, okay? And pay attention to your body language. Pay attention to their body language and pay attention to your body language. Sometimes body language, though, can express that a person is nervous. It might not even be about them not wanting to hear what you say. Sometimes they're just nervous and they're fidgety and they're anxious and they have like a little nervous tick, so they're kind of moving around or tapping their feet, because they might have high anxiety levels. Number 3, observe how others communicate in different contexts. It's important to understand your audience. So let's say you're at work. Let's say we're not even talking about relationships, and you're at work and you have to do a presentation in front of your whole office, your boss. If you're nervous about how you have to act, or how you have to speak, just take cues from people around you. You can do that in your relationship. Take cues from your partner. Just kind of pay attention to how they're responding to what you're saying, and that'll help you to lead the conversation in the right direction. You can also ask questions. Did you not agree with what I just said? What are you thinking? Those are things that you can say. That leads me to also tell you number 4, which is, don't be afraid of a bit of silence. Sometimes there'll be lapses in conversation. Sometimes during the conversation, there'll be a lapse there'll be like silence. But don't think that that's because there's something wrong with what you're saying. Sometimes people are being polite, or that's just their way of not interrupting you, is just to stay silent. Number 5, use action verbs and confident language. So even if you're feeling confident, you can still sound confident. And one good trick in avoiding filler words like and is by slowing down your speech. That is something that I personally have an issue with. I personally, as you can hear me, say and a lot. I'm working on it, but when you do it for a long period of time, it becomes natural, and you always tend to say it. So you see how I'm talking slower? I can catch myself if I speak slower, but if you talk really fast, which I do, sometimes you slip up and say that. So try to use other action words to show that you're confident in what you're saying. Now, when I say and I don't take it as me not being confident. I think it's just a bad habit that I have. So sometimes it's just a bad habit. So don't take the person as not having any confidence in themselves if you hear them saying and a lot in their speech. Number 6, ask questions. Ask clarifying questions. It'll ensure that you understand what your partner, spouse, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend are saying, and it shows them that you're paying attention to them. It's not that you're not hearing them, but when you can repeat and ask questions, that shows them that you are right there. You're listening. You're paying attention. You're into the conversation, you're being respectful, all those things wrapped up in one. Number 7, find common ground, even in an argument. Finding a shared interest or opinion with your partner is always a great strategy. It'll make the conversation more enjoyable for both of you, as well as show your conversation partner, your spouse, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, that you got something in common. But finding common ground in an argument can just be just as important. It's if you disagree with someone, try to find a related point that you do agree with. It'll show you're trying to understand their point of view as well. Number 8, be prepared and know what you're talking about. Knowing your subject matter will put you at ease and make it easier to communicate your ideas to others. Let me go off track of relationships. Let's say you're preparing for a job interview and you really have to make sure that you're familiar with the position in the company. If you're giving a presentation, you have to know your stuff. Same thing in a relationship. You want to address an issue. You want to address something that's important to you. Make sure that you know what you're talking about before you get into that conversation. It all depends on what the topic is and what you guys are discussing. Number 9, if you want to subtly change the subject, find a verbal bridge. What does that mean? We all occasionally end up in a conversation that's not going in a direction that we like. So finding a polite way to change the subject can be hard, but one good trick is finding a bridge. This can mean finding a topic somewhere in between the current one and the one that you're interested in, or involve using more of a general phrase that will help you shift the topic. For example, phrases like yes, but, what I can tell you is, or the important thing to remember is, they all allow you to have a subtle shift of focus. Number 10, find the best way to frame your story. So whether you're giving a lecture, you're telling a funny story to a friend, it's always important to figure out how to frame it to make it interesting and engaging. Same thing in a relationship. You are having a conversation with your significant other. You want to make sure that they are engaged in the conversation. And number 11, relax. Relax. Take it easy. Though it's important to be self-aware during an important or stressful conversation, ultimately one of the most effective communication strategies is to relax. Take a deep breath, pause, act like you would normally, but also be yourself. So I hope that this was a very informative podcast today. These are tips and strategies. I hope that you play it again, take notes, because like I said, people think that they are great communicators until they're in the heat of the moment of an argument and they don't know which way to turn, left or right. And then it turns into a screaming match. And then you're not being heard. And then your feelings are hurt. And then you're walking out. This can escalate. You can be talking about the color of the sky and end up spending the night out of the house because you guys got into a full-blown argument over the color of the sky. So as funny as that sounds, it has happened, trust me. So until next time, please stay safe and be well. If you're looking for a life coach or counseling, you can visit my website, lifehackswithnancy.com, or feel free to email me at lifecoachnancy7@gmail.com. Until next time, we'll see you again. Have a good night.